The Patriots take on the Dolphins this Sunday in what feels like a must-win game for New England. And if you want the good vibes going into Sunday to elevate to a different level, we have to beat the Dolphins Today channel in subscribers. We trail by about, 30? Hit that sub button if you want to beat the Dolphins on the YouTube streets and on the field on Sunday. No, this is not Harrison Graham. This is producer Nic Rohloff filling in on Patriots Today. So welcome into the channel. And on today's show, we are talking about the latest New England Patriots trade rumors as we are just about 4 or 5 days away from the trade deadline on October 31st. And the Patriots could either sell or they could buy. And the truth of it all is Sunday decides what New England will do. If they win this game, beating the Bills and Dolphins in back-to-back weeks, well, you're sitting at 3-5 with a manageable schedule coming up. You probably look to be buyers at the trade deadline. But if you lose and you're 2-6, well, I think it might be time to call it on the season and start trading away some of those assets you have on the defensive side of the ball. And hell, maybe you even get rid of one of those wide receivers, Juju and Devontae Parker, who have been stinking it up all season long. And Albert Breer, who covers the NFL and has some sources inside the building of Foxborough, had this to say the other day on radio. He said, "So my understanding is they're listening on everybody." And I agree with that philosophy. They should be open-minded going into the NFL trade deadline. Like I mentioned just a bit earlier, if they lose, I think it's time to sell. You're not going to be someone who competes for the NFL championship. And you probably won't be competing for that Lombardi trophy regardless, if we're going to be honest. But there is a pathway to sneak into the postseason. So if you win, be ready to go all in. Maybe add a wide receiver. Add someone on that defensive side of the ball that can help. You already made a move for J.C. Jackson. That's been paying off well because he's been playing unbelievable in his first 3 games back in Foxborough. But like I mentioned, if you lose, you should also be open-minded to go into sell mode in New England, whether it be trading away Josh Uche, who we'll talk about, Jalen Mills maybe. I wouldn't move Jabril Peppers, but maybe even there's Kyle Duggar talk as well. But going into Sunday, I want to ask you guys, who do you got? If you got the Patriots going to 3-5, type your NEs. If you got the Dolphins putting New England to 2-6 and likely selling at the deadline, type your MIAs. This basically decides it all. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm going to the defensive side, and I tell you what, if the Patriots do end up losing and falling 2-6, I think the edge out of Michigan, Josh Uche, gets dealt the former second-round pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. I think he's unfortunately no longer going to be a New England Patriot. Albert Breer, we talked about him earlier, also said that he thinks the one guy that's coming up the most as a potential guy that could get moved is Josh Uche. He's valuable and has a premium skill, which is as a pass rusher. So they're going to listen on, my understanding is, just about everybody that's within reason. And when you think of what Josh Uche has done in his NFL career since being drafted in 2020, he's flashed at times, but he's also had some struggles. As a rookie, he did not stuff the stat sheet, played in 9 games, couldn't really find his footing. In 2021, he started to pick it up a little bit, but he battled injuries the first 2 seasons of his career. And then in his 3rd season last year, Judon and him formed one of the best pass rushing duos inside the National Football League. Uche totaled 11.5 sacks last year and looked on the edge of breaking out as one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. But coming back to this year with his running mate Matthew Judon hurt for basically the entire season after 3 or 4 weeks, Uche has also been battling injuries, has been not putting up the big numbers. And I like Josh Uche a lot. They took a premium draft selection with him in that 2nd round. Talk about a good draft class by Bill Belichick. He gets slanted a lot for his drafts, but in 2020, taking both Kyle Duggar and Josh Uche in that 2nd round, that's good scouting by good old BB. But the problem with Uche is that he's inconsistent, dealing with a lot of injuries most of his career, and you might not re-sign him anyway. Now, you do have to make a decision of potentially extending Josh Uche this offseason and the aforementioned Kyle Duggar. you can extend those guys. Or one of them will go and you franchise tag the other. So whatever Bill Belichick plans to do is going to be very dependent on the trade deadline. Maybe they're going to wait and see if they get the good offers for Uche or Duggar, and then elect to see what they do in the offseason from there on out. If one of them's not on the roster in the offseason, maybe they franchise tag that player or extend that player. But in my opinion, if they don't trade Uche, I'd love to keep him around long term. But hey, if they're calling for second, third round picks, I might have to accept that offer, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. But I do got to show some love to our sponsor on today's show, and that is Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for first deposit match up to $100. They're the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. And instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros, sharks, you just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Harrison and I have teamed up to make a nice little 2-pick selection for this Sunday. We're going more than 56.5 DJ Moore receiving yards. And then Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp have flip-flopped week in, week out of who basically gets all the targets from Matthew Stafford. Last week it was Puka. This week it's going to be Cooper Kupp. Give me the less than on his receiving yards. Another positive, they allow quick withdrawals and an easy gameplay with an enormous selection of players and stat types what make playing DFS so much fun. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. One more time, prizepicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS for that first deposit match up to $100. Back to Josh Uche, though. If some team comes calling, some team that wants to make a playoff push, needs to add a premier pass rusher to their team, and they offer you a second-round pick, it's going to be hard to decline that with his pending free agency coming this offseason. I'd even stoop as low as a third-rounder plus a sixth-rounder. Like, maybe a team just throws 1/3 at BB and he says yes, but if they're throwing a third, I'd like to try to get back a late pick as well. I think Uche has all the physical tools in the bend, most importantly, to become an elite pass rusher inside the NFL. Hell, he's had an 11.5 sack season. He just needs to be able to stay on the field and be more consistent. He's shown flashes, and that's why maybe you cash in on a high-value pick at this deadline. But if you have to keep him, you have to keep him. I'm not selling Uche for the low. But let me ask you guys, be Bill Belichick for me. Would you trade Josh Uche before Tuesday at 4 p.m., the NFL trade deadline? Would you trade him? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know in the comment section. Now, though, what if the Patriots do win on Sunday? They beat the Miami Dolphins. They're riding hot into the deadline. Do they go out and add a wide receiver to this roster? We know the wide receiver core is always a big topic in Foxborough. Oh, man, they need something out there. And could it be David Bell, the former third-round pick out of Purdue? He has really struggled in Cleveland since he's been picked, but there is a rumor out there that the Patriots could be trading for the former Boilermaker out in the land. Christopher Knox had this to say: the Patriots have to consider budget options at wide receiver, and they might find one in Browns wide receiver David Bell. The 2022 third-round pick out of Purdue hasn't seen the field often for Cleveland, but he was praised for his versatility and ball skills entering the draft. You talk about not seeing the field often. David Bell has played in 22 career games inside the NFL, and oh boy, these numbers are horrific. 28 receptions, 247 yards, 8.8 yards per catch, and he has not found pay dirt once. This dude stinks, and he does not get PT in Cleveland, and it makes sense. Listen, David Bell, I actually would argue, is the prototypical Patriots wide receiver. He is versatile. He blocks really well, but he's not fast, and he doesn't have the best route running skills. I mean, he's getting passed up by Amari Cooper and others in the land. Obviously, they brought in Elijah Moore. They addressed that position in the offseason because they knew David Bell wasn't getting the job done. But you talk about not getting the job done, it is the Patriots wide receiver depth chart. And I think going into this Sunday against the Dolphins, Kendrick Bourne and Demario Douglas are no doubt your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. But the newly acquired, I wouldn't say newly acquired, he's been on the practice squad, been elevated 3 times this season. but he's officially on the 53-man roster as of this week. Jalen Reagor might be your wide receiver 3. Juju Smith-Schuster has given you nothing this year. Devontae Parker is a bum. Sixth-rounder Kayshon Boutte has also done nothing and has been healthy and active the majority of the season. And then the former second-round pick, Tyquan Thornton, is probably also going to be healthy and active because he can't do anything right either. So if you're going to trade for a wide receiver, I'm not trading for no mid-ass wide receiver like David Bell. I'm going all in for Jerry Jeudy. And he might be mid too, but at least there's some flash there. There's some promise out of the former first-round pick out of Alabama. He's shown the ability to get open and make big plays. He hasn't done it this year, I'll be honest there, but in 2022, 15 games played, he almost had 1,000 yards. He had 6 touchdowns. Him and Russell Wilson have not been able to get on the same page in Denver over the past 2 years. It's disappointing. But hey, if Jeudy came into New England, he can maybe get back to that route running technician he was at Alabama. Him and Mac Jones played a game together. One game, I think it was. And Jeudy went for like 180. He was absolutely on fire in that bowl game. So maybe you do go all in, trade maybe a third-round pick, maybe a second-round pick if that's what it takes to get Jerry Jeudy. And you add him, because if you're telling me your top three wide receivers are Jeudy on the left, Kendrick Bourne on the right, and then you got Demario Douglas pop in the slot, I could be convinced on that being a solid wide receiver core in Foxborough for maybe the first time in a long time. Let's say that. But pick a wide receiver. Who would you rather trade for? Type JJ for Jerry Jeudy. Type DB for David Bell. I got to be honest, Patriots fans, I should not see one DB in the chat. If you do, we might got problems. But I'll tell you what, if we do trade for a wide receiver or make any trade at the deadline, whether it be selling or buying, we will have you covered here at Patriots Today. So don't be a fraud. Hit that sub button. Join the channel because we're going to have you locked into all Patriots news and rumors for the season and the offseason.